way of how to test or identify the subject within a sentence is that by depending on front shift test. What does this mean? You know that we have different kinds of sentences in English. We have the statement, we have questions, as well as imperative sentences. In each of these types of sentences, we are going to see the subject, though we have the implied subject in imperative sentences, showing that in each type, there is a position which is related to the subject. So front shift means that there is a shift in the position of the subject. How is that? Usually in a statement, we have the sentence to start with the subject, followed by the verb and the complement. The same as once we say, her youngest brother broke his bike. So her youngest brother is considered as the subject of the sentence. Broke is the main verb, his bike is the direct object. So her youngest brother, which is in the form of a noun phrase, this is the complete subject, by the way. It starts the statement, it starts the sentence, followed by the verb and then the complement. So in a statement, the subject will be number one in front position, that is to say, at the beginning of the sentence. But once we change the statement into a question, we are going to see that there is a shift, there is a change from front position into another position we mean the subject. So the subject which is number one in a statement will be changed into another position. Suppose that we have a yes/no question. The same sentence, once I write between two brackets, change into a yes/no question. So with the change, we should first look at the tense of the sentence. Here it is simple past tense, and the sentence has no auxiliary, so that we will choose did, not does or do. Okay, why? Because it is past tense. So in a yes/no question, the sentence starts without an auxiliary. So the first element within the yes/no question is the auxiliary verb. Of course, the first auxiliary if we have more than one auxiliary. Okay, so we'll start with the auxiliary verb followed by the subject. So in this case, once I say, did her youngest brother break his bike, the sentence starts with the auxiliary, which is number one, the front position. It is here did is written at the beginning of the sentence. Here the subject is no longer in front position. Rather, we see if we compare a statement with yes/no question, we see that her youngest brother shifts or changes its position from number one at the beginning of the sentence into the second element. Why is that? Because there is a shift from a statement into a question. With the shift from a statement into a question, we will see the subject verb inversion. There is a change or a shift in the position of the subject and the verb. So in the first sentence, in the statement, the subject is the first element. But in a yes/no question, the auxiliary, which is here as operator, is considered as number one, whereas her youngest brother is number two. So the sentence will be, we said we will choose did, and whenever we choose did or we start the sentence with one of the auxiliaries, making a yes/no question, other than have, has, had. In this case, we will say, for example, do, does, did, and the main verb will be in its base form. could again the main verb will be in the base form unless it is preceded by another auxiliary, that is the primary auxiliary. Okay, so did her youngest brother break, not broke. Why? Because base form, supposed to be base form. So did her youngest brother break his bike with a question mark. So here her youngest brother in a statement is number one, did is number one in yes no question, whereas her youngest brother is number two. So here by this we can state that this is the subject which is capable of changing its position from number one, from the front position in a statement, into mid position, the second position in a yes no question. Okay, suppose that I would like to change the same sentence, her youngest brother broke his bike, into a WH question. So how is that? I might underline, put a line under his bike, then between two brackets I might say ask using what. So again in this case we are going to say what did her youngest brother break. What number one, element number one, did element number two, her youngest brother number three. So again in a WH question the subject will be number three other than two or one. This is again a shift in the position of the subject and the verb. But if we compare yes no question and WH question, we are going to see that yes no question start with the auxiliary yes no questions, whereas WH questions start with WH word. Okay, removing what we are going to see that did her youngest brother, the auxiliary precedes the subject, whether in a yes no question or in a WH question. The same will be here done concerning the student who told me could have been wrong. So could the student who told me have been wrong? This is a change or a shift from front position into mid position as far as the subject is concerned. So this indicates or shows that we have subject verb inversion, that's to say a shift from one position to the next one. Okay, let's move to the third way of testing the identity of the subject. Okay, you remember earlier we have tackled the subject, verb, direct object. We remember well to know whether this is the object, we can say that we are going to substitute it by or ask a question using whom or what, whom for the personal and what for the non-personal. In the same way, to check that this element is the subject of the sentence, to identify it, we can ask a question using either what for the non-personal or who for the personal. And by the way, sometimes we use what not only for the non-personal but again sometimes we use it whenever we don't know the identity of the element which we are asking about. So a third strategy for determining the subject of a sentence is to locate the main verb and ask yourself who or what in relation to the verb. So the criminal in the blue jailhouse clothes made a daring escape. We ask the following question saying what, who or what, if we don't know whether a human or non-human, in this way. Who or what made a daring escape? The answer to this question is the subject. We are going to say the criminal in the blue jailhouse clothes made a daring escape. Okay, so here the criminal in the blue jailhouse clothes this is the complete subject, whereas criminal is considered as the simple subject. This is how to identify the subject, and this is how to show that we have two types of subjects within here this lecture. They are the simple and the complete. How to say that this is a subject, not an object, by depending on these three ways of tests. What are they? Number one, subject verb concord or agreement with reference to form, depending on the number of the subject. Number two, we can depend upon the front shift test. Number three, we can ask a question with what or who to say this is the subject if the element answers the question with what or whom. So in this case, it is the subject of the sentence. This is as far as identifying the subject is concerned. And put in your mind that within a statement, there is the sentence starts with a subject. Within a question, different types of a question, it is after the auxiliaries. And in the imperative sentence, we don't have a clear subject, rather we have an implied or hidden subject. So whenever we say open the window please, I mean either you, the addressee المخاطب, or somebody. So whenever I say open the door please, I mean someone. Okay, so it is the implied, not a clear subject. Here we have an absence of the subject as far as imperative sentences are concerned. It is marked as zero subject or null subject. Zero or null subject. It is understood from the context that I mean you or somebody else. Thank you so much for listening.